We're going to talk about youth issues today and how Africans in general are faring, but Nigerians in particular. I have here with me Kwame Adadivo.
Good afternoon.
How's it going?
Not bad.
Are you a youth before we even go on? Because I hear it's supposed to be 18 to 35. Don't give away your age now. But are you around that?
You don't want me to give away the age, then you ask again. I mean, make up your mind.
Okay.
I am a youth, anyways.
Very interesting. And of course, we have here with us Oreoluwa Shonibare, producer, Channels Book Club.
Okay.
You do a lot of work with young people.
Yes, I do. Children and youthful adults. I like the way you pronounce my name, by the way.
You thought I was going to get it right.
Well, you didn't.
You
but
didn't, actually.
It's all right.
You did it with a twist.
But it was the right pronunciation.
Oreoluwa.
Oreoluwa.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Now, let's go in quickly now. The International Youth Day, like I said, was held on the 12th of August. And sometimes I am one of those, as much as I'm a young person, do you think, let me ask that, do you think we overflog or we are a little too emotional when it comes to youth issues? Like we shout about marginalization a little too much. Are we actually marginalized? Are we doing enough on our part? Or do we just wait for things to be handed to us?
In a lot of ways, I don't think that we shout too much about it. In some ways, I would say we don't shout enough. However, what I would say is that we shouldn't use the word shout, and we shouldn't use the approach of shouting. What we should do is to be introspective. What have they done ahead of us? All the people who have been ahead of us, what have they done? How have they done it? And how can we make it right? Because essentially, some things that you learn is, well, Einstein said it. I mean, if you do one thing over and over and over and you expect to get a different result, you're showing signs of insanity. Clearly, all the shouting and whatever has been done before haven't been effective. They haven't brought us the results we want. So we then have to get introspective and say, okay, look, how do we change this and get what we want?
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Would you agree? Do you think we're doing enough or we're doing too little?
Well, let's go back to the beginning. There's a man, there's a woman, then there are children. That is a process that will never stop. So as long as that doesn't stop, you know that it's always a process, continuous one. So having said that, you will always have youth everywhere you go. And you will always need to provide for these youths everywhere they are found. But there's a provider and there's a collector. Everybody has to apply themselves. These people on the other side who are over 60 or whatever it is have a responsibility to us. And we also have a responsibility to ourselves as youth to latch on to what they have planned out. I'm not saying that they've always done well. We have issues of corruption. But I remember when I was in secondary school, we used to have calls for, come get technical classes in soap making, in candle making, in a whole lot. Back then we used to like parties. We preferred parties.
Back then?
Back then, I remember, that's what I remember.
Yeah,
we used to ignore all of that call. And it affected us because I can't make soap. I can't make candles. And I have a whole lot of friends who went for those kind of courses and are independent. They're making so much right now. We never applied ourselves to be technically inclined. And we affected ourselves as youth at that point. So the blame game is not, it's your fault, it's our fault. We didn't apply ourselves as well, so we need to look inwards.
As well.
So it's a continuous reel.
We're going to come on to all of that with skill acquisition and, things that, especially with job creation. But I want to find out from you now, and both of you actually. I also get a sense that we do not necessarily have an agreement on what our biggest issue is as young people. Today you hear job creation, tomorrow you hear people want to be a part of politics, tomorrow you hear people want free education. Is there really a need to be concise with what we actually want to achieve as young people or what we want? And are we doing that well?
I think what we need to focus on, really, is to identify the core issues that we have as a nation and then as youth in the nation. And then when we've identified those core issues, then break them down and say, okay, look, these are the things that need to be done to be able to achieve the objectives in the core issues. Job creation, skill acquisition, different things. You can have different names and different tags for them. But the point is that the people who have skills in those different areas, what we need to have is to have an arrowhead or a group of people who act as the arrowhead, and then there's some supervision of all those things so that there's a clear goal. I mean, there's something that a lot of management people would tell you. When you set targets, what gets measured gets done. So you set targets and say, okay, look, this is what we want to achieve with this over X period of time. We have people doing this. Your target is between now and end of 2013, 2014, you must achieve this. If they don't, you find out, okay, why weren't you able to do that? Those are the kind of things that we need to become technical with what we want to do. Otherwise, emotions will never get us anywhere. That's what we've been doing, just emotionally doing stuff.
What do you think is our biggest problem?
Like I said earlier on, we should have something like a charter, which gives us a focus of where we want to go. Then, based on the charter, you put milestones. And then based on the milestones, you can then, because if we just want to have a good life is up in the air, really.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
A good life could not be mine. Might not be mine. Yeah.
Exactly. So we all have an agreed term. Okay, this is what we want to be able to achieve. This is where we want to go. And then we set the goals for it. We set the targets. And then over time, we measure that and we go on.
I'm going to come back to you, but I want to find out, what do you think our biggest problem is? The same question. Is unemployment the biggest issue we have as a country today with young people?
No, discipline, I feel, is the biggest
That's
issue.
an interesting one.
Very, very interesting.
I wouldn't have gone there, but I'm listening.
Discipline is because, well, when the National Youth Service Corps was created, I always have this idea that when I started reading up on it, that it should have been fashioned in the line of, after a year, everybody that had gone through the whole process should be ranked. Mm-hmm. That breeds discipline. Have at least some sort of military ranking that every year you go through the drill. You will not, when that happens, you will not toss paper from your car. I will call you. When did you finish? Can you pick that up? You see, these are things, because we're too many. So we need to really get ourselves together as a unit.
True.
Yes, and discipline, first of all, breeds the things that you want to get. Without discipline, nothing else can work. So I think the government got it wrong in that regard, first of all. Then we also need to look at ourselves as youth. Why are we not disciplined? We need to talk about that. That is a very key issue. Without discipline, unemployment will come, corruption will come, insecurity will come. Everything that is wrong in Nigeria is because of indiscipline.
That's a very interesting angle that he brought in there now. So how do we, because you talked about, collecting and, making how do we, first of all, get this sort of a message to people to say, okay, we need discipline, then we also need to come together. Because I know we have a lot of youth bodies, there's a National Youth Organization, there's a lot of those things, but how do we actually do this?
How do we harness it? The easiest way is to find